So welcome everybody. My name is Vojtech, I'm from Czech Republic, and this will be our journey today. So it will be 90 minutes without break. And basically first half will be theoretical. So we will go through what is exploratory testing, how it is different from the other techniques and so on. Then I will show you some techniques you can use. And in the second half, you will try it. So you will have 3 10-minute exercises to try very simple techniques, but powerful ones, which you can then directly apply at your companies during your work. So first is, what is exploratory testing? That joke, it's in the abstract, but I really like it because it perfectly fits exploratory testing. It's like everyone, it's like a teenage sex. Everyone talks about it. Nobody really knows how to do it. But everybody thinks that everyone else is doing that, so everyone claims they are doing it too. And if you apply it to the exploratory testing, that claims, it's very important, because when I talk to different companies, do you do exploratory testing? I always get the answer, yes, we do. And then I ask, okay, what does it mean? Yeah, we try some random inputs and so on, but that's not exploratory testing. And if we go deeper, the next question is, so how do you differentiate it in your company? How do you know that now I'm doing exploratory testing and now I'm doing something else? And they don't know the difference. They think it's somehow just play with the system, and that's not true. But let's start with some myths, because there are many myths about exploratory testing. And first thing is that people say there are no rules. It's a kind of testing without rules, just do whatever you want, but that's not true. That's called random testing. It exists. It could be used during exploratory testing sometimes, but that's not it. The second rule is just do whatever you want. Like free for all, you can do whatever you want, and that will maybe work for very senior people who knows a lot of, and then basically do whatever you want works because they know what to do. But again, that's not exploratory testing. It's random, typical myth. No, it's not random. It has a lot of rules, just these rules are not so descriptive as for script-based testing or whatever. And yeah. And that's done, okay, so it's not random. Oh, cool. And yeah, you often hear just try some crazy inputs, boundary values, and so on. Not exploratory testing. These are techniques you can use during exploration, you can use during functional testing, whatever, but it's not that. And then one interesting myth or belief is that it cannot be learned, that it's something you have to be born with. And of course, some people has good preconditions for exploratory testing, some others has worse, but it's a skill you can learn as any other technique or testing approaches, and many other myths. So before we go to what exploratory testing is, let's think about what testing itself is. And there are many definitions what testing is. You can find dozens of them. Most of them are right, but I choose few of them which are related to this topic. So first is that testing provides information to allow some informed decision. Nice thing about testing is that it's usually not for us to do these decisions. We just provide the information. But without that information, people are just guessing. Their decision will be like, I don't know, but we should release, or it's ready for production, or whatever decision. So as a testers or QAs, we have to provide that information so that the decision is informed. Then second thing, and the very important one, it's that testing is professional skepticism. And that's the value we bring to the project. If we are optimistic, if we are that in this mood, everything will go fine, and so on, we doesn't bring any value. We have to be skeptics, we have to point to the problems, and basically our mission, it's unique in the way that we are finding problems. We are trying to point to that something is not working, but definitely we are not breaking software. That's the sentence which I really hate, because the software is already broken. We just maybe broke illusion that it works. Because people think, yeah, and then we, but it's already broken. We have no power to break software. And next definition, it's the testing is rapid learning. And we will hear it in the definition of exploratory testing, that the learning is very important. And basically, our starting point is that we knew very little about software, so we cannot provide that information, and then we learn through testing, we learn what it does, what it should, and so on, so that we can provide that information. And last thing is that all testing is exploratory, because when you stop exploring, you are doing kind of verification or checking or whatever, but which is important part of our job, but I would say it's not testing anymore, because it could be checking or it could be marking that works. But if there is no exploration in your testing, it's not testing anymore, I think. So the last important definition or thing or idea is that testing doesn't mean quality. The sad thing, or it's not sad, it's true, our activities cannot improve quality of the software itself. It cannot break it, and it cannot improve it. You provide information, that information should lead to some action, and that action improves the software. So you found a bug, software is still the same, there is still that bug, the bug is fixed, that improves the quality. So we are just measuring, and the question is what we should measure, what is our ultimate goal? And if we define quality like that quality is satisfaction and happiness of everybody who matters, so all of the stakeholder involved parties, then that's what we should measure. We should measure satisfaction and happiness by testing. So let's keep this in mind during this talk, and now let's think how exploratory testing is different, or what is its relationship to other test techniques. So if we have simple chart like that, so on vertical axis we have who is doing the testing. So here machines are doing that, and here humans are doing that. And on that side we have that it's very deterministic, and here, yeah, random or not deterministic. And if we put traditional things, so here on that left quadrant it will be TDD, BDD, performance testing, all of that, unit testing, and so on. Then here we have acceptance, script-based testing, somewhere here is probably usability. Here we have things like UX testing, random testing, and so on. And here these weird things like fuzzy testing, data matters, and so on. So now where you think exploratory testing is? Any guess? In the middle. I would say it's here. Because so far, and I think it will be true for a long time in future, it's still done by humans. We can use some tools to help us, but really the exploratory testing needs to be done by humans, and it's more in that area. And non-descriptive, non-deterministic. Yes, some techniques will be kind of deterministic. Sometimes you need a well-defined script, even for exploratory testing, but it's more on this side. And nice is if we try to name these 3 quadrants. So this one, I would say it's agile developers. Okay, we can help there sometimes, but on agile project, that should be their area. And testers, developers needs to test a lot, and some of the things they should do is in this area. This one, it's agile QAs. I think we should be here. And the question, what is the name? How would you name this one? Any ideas? Waterfall. I would call it boring. Nowadays, for most of the activities, you should not be there as a human. Why? This could be automated. Machines are much better in that. So it should go here, down, and machines can do it. How would you call this one? Relax. Interesting. I call it weird so far, because this is area where I think there are huge possibilities to discover interesting tools that can help us. Not too many yet, but it will be interesting. So that's one point of view. Okay, exploratory testing is somewhere here. Even exploration sometimes, if done wrong, can be boring, or not boring, but deterministic. Sometimes good idea to have a more detailed things there, but usually it's somewhere here. And another quadrant, it's very old. It comes from Brian Merrick. By the way, do you know all Agile Manifesto? So he's one of people who signed it and created. And it's again quadrants, but this time it's a bit different. So we have a box, and on the down of that box, it's, let's say, technology facing. So we are testing that technological aspect of the software. On the top, it's opposite. We are testing business aspects of that software. And this side, it's more about supporting the development team itself. And here, it's criticizing the product. So we are focusing on the output. And yeah, some of the things could be automated, some of things could be or should be done by humans still. And again, here are things like unit testing, component tests, and so on. Here we have our things like functional testing, story testing, and all of that stuff. And here in that quadrant, so it means that we are focusing on the product, and it's business facing. That's where exploratory testing is. Together with usability, together with acceptance testing, together with beta, alpha testing, whatever. And here in that quadrant, we have all of that performance, security, reliability, whatever it is testing. It's this quadrant. And nowadays, exploratory testing is expanding a bit to other quadrants. It definitely expands to that Q4, because you can apply a lot of exploratory techniques for performance testing, security, whatever. It's expanding a bit here. To here, I don't think so, because it should be done by machines. It's really technological, it's a development area, if you wish. So exploratory testing doesn't go there. So primary, remember, it's this quadrant, and expanding to these two. So now, finally, let's define exploratory testing. And I will let you read the long definition, which comes from Karner, one of the founders of exploratory testing. So I will give you a minute to read it. Okay, and there are few important words in the definition, and I think that the most important is that personal freedom and responsibility of a tester. And that's what makes exploratory testing hard, because you need to know what you are doing. Nobody will provide you easy script to follow, easy test case to follow. You are responsible to do it. So if you are junior, if you don't know how to do it, it doesn't mean you will guess. It means you say, I don't know, please help me. I have some ideas, but I don't know how to do that. And then the second important thing is that these three traditional activities are running in parallel. So that's why Buck defines exploratory testing much simpler. It's simultaneous learning, test design, and test execution. So these are activities we On other techniques, we are used to do more or less in the sequence. At first, I learn about the requirements, about everything, and so on. Then I design my test cases, my idea, and then I test it. And exploratory testing, it's pushing you or trying to encourage you to do it simultaneously. Yeah, that's terrible word. To do it together in parallel. So it looks like that. I'm learning, I'm designing and executing at the same time. I don't know, it usually doesn't work for men. I can do all of these activities in 1 hour or 2 hours on the test session. I really cannot do them together. Maybe women can do 3 things together, I can't. But the idea is, it should be in the one test session. You don't at first spend hours or days by learning, then design, then execute. So that was a bit definition, and now we will go deeper to exploratory testing. So this picture illustrates all kinds of exploration if a tester is buying bad. Nobody else understands why we are doing these things. And that's how work affects your personal life, if you are a tester. But at first, let's start with an analogy. And I like an analogy of a map when talking about exploratory testing. So let's imagine this is a Prague, and this is a traditional approach to testing, like scripted based. So my goal is to go from this place to this place, and I will follow that direct path. So basically, I don't have to think. If you imagine a Google Maps or whatever, it will go and say, okay, go there, left, then right, whatever. So no thinking. It's just go there and verify that it works. The thinking or design, let's say, was done by that program, by that mapping program. And then what is exploratory testing? Very often you will hear that. So there is no path. But that's bullshit. That's not exploratory testing. That's back to that random. Like, how the hell I will get there, and what should I do during the path? That's random. So better is to say that I have some area for the exploration. I have some goals what I would to do that, and it could be less descriptive or more descriptive, but it should not be like that. It should not be really do that and that and that and that, because that kills that exploration. It will be just checking. And that introduces us, or brings us to the most important concept of exploration. And that's that we need to have something which is usually called test session, but it's basically the idea and goal I want to do. And first thing is that it should be boxed. And the boundaries are set by 2 things. The first is scope, so what I would like to discover, in what area, and so on. And the second, it's time. So I should limit myself to as short period of the time as possible to achieve these goals. I would say maximal, it's 4 hours, because we are talking about uninterrupted time to test, to learn, design, and test. And I don't know of your companies, but in my companies, to get 4 hours of uninterrupted work, it's quite challenging. So I usually do 2 hours session, and it really means switch off all notifications and so on, and just focus on this. And the second thing is that there should be goal, there should be some idea. Again, it's not random, and it could be based on your intention. So I want to try this and this. It could be maybe based on your feelings. I have a feeling I should try this. I don't know why, but feeling. Or suspicions, or previous experience. Because I know there was the problem previously, I will test also this and this and this and this. So this is a test session, unique work or period of the time where we would like to perform that exploration. And before we go to see how that session could look like, what are the best practices and so on, let's talk about what means that the software is tested. Because sometimes you hear, yeah, I will do just exploratory testing. I will not do any other kind of boring stuff, but that will not help you. because tested means it's checked and explored. So we have a confirmation and we have exploration, and both of them have the same importance. You cannot say, I will do just that or just that. Okay, you have different approaches. This probably involves a lot of automation, this probably not, but you will not survive only with that or only with that. It needs to be balanced. And if we look to that split in more details, there are a lot of interesting kind of manifestos, like you have one side, another side, but not like in the manifesto. In the manifesto, left side, there is still value, but the right side, we value more. Here I would say it's the same. It's 50-50. So these are the splits. First is verification, validation. The classic dilemma, verification, what the system should do. So I have a requirement, I verify that it does it. Validation, what value it brings, what it's supposed to do, but it's not required, and so on. Then checking and testing, that's nice and interesting terminology. Testing means that I really think about that. I learn, I change my opinions, and so on. Checking means really checking, like you have a check mark and yes, 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 no, yes, yes, no. Both important. It means that that side, it's more demonstrative. So you demonstrate it does or it doesn't what it should. This side, it's more speculative. It's a what if? What if I tried that? What if there is that problem? Maybe, and so on. And the last, this is more or less static. Okay, change a bit if there are new requirements and so on, but basically here it's based on some requirements which are more or less static. This is growing because when you are testing, you are learning about the software and you have new ideas and so on. So your, let's say, set of things to test are not fixed and they evolve. And of course, exploratory testing is more that side. There, okay, maybe some exploration could be on the verification side, but not too much. So we are talking about this side. Good. So now exploring. So sorry for the check slide, but it said this is a map, and here it says you stay here. And I like this picture because many times when I was doing exploratory testing, it was exactly like that because I forgot to take good notes and so on. So I found very interesting, serious bug. I don't know how to reproduce. After 2 hours of exploratory testing, I didn't know what I did. So really remember that you have to take notes. When you are exploring, you define this session so you know you will spend 2 hours doing whatever you plan. So first thing, make notes of the progress. And people are very different. So somebody likes to write it down. So each step, okay, I was doing that, they write down, use some tools for that. I cannot do that because it disturbs me. So what I do is I'm recording audio. I'm talking to myself, which means whenever I do exploratory testing, I had to sit in that booth when we telephone because my colleagues hate me. But it helps me. And then record your activity. And here we have a lot of tools we can use. I'm using screen recordings, so basically it's audio with a screen. So session starts, press, and you have a 2-hour big video, which if nothing happens, you can delete. If something happens, you have to cut it and find the important things for logging the defect. But we can also collect all other things. Nowadays, collecting all of the logs, all of the debug things, that will help us to investigate, to report the problems. And important is, at the end, we have to report results. It's not like, I done an exploratory session, it was fine. No, it should be, what have we learned? Even if everything passed, we should somehow summarize how we and why we spent these 2 hours. Have we learned something? No or yes? Are we done or do we need some more sessions? Do we have some new ideas, bugs, and so on? On the other hand, very tricky thing is that during exploration, you can be disturbed by a lot of things. Things which you find during the testing. And that's when the test session is a really nice thing, because if you have that objectives, you should follow that objectives and don't do anything else. And let's imagine that exploratory testing, it's kind of like a maze. So my test session now would be to go through that maze and find exit. So that's the goal. And let's imagine I'm going through that maze. So yeah, I'm documenting everything because I should know where I was going. And then after a while, you came to the wall and there is a picture of a very cute kitten. And you see that, and what you should do during exploratory testing is make a note, there was a kitten, and continue. Because your objective was to find exit. So it's interesting, there is a kitten, but I will not spend 2 hours to find out why. Maybe here, any new ideas, there will be test session. I found a kitten, and I would like to test why it was there, what is it, and so on. The other thing is, if after 2 minutes, I came to the wall and there is a huge sign, exit, and it points to, like dead wall, it could point here, then I have to stop and I have to investigate and even spend that 2 hours why there is an exit which points to the wrong direction, because that's connected with the goal of the session. Usually you will have a lot of the disturbance, so a lot of new ideas to test, but please focus on the goal. Otherwise, you will not finish your test sessions, and it will be always, I found something else, and so on. So that was about tracking it. And now let's talk about some techniques, which we will try in the second half of the speech. And when I mean techniques, I mean these things, so let's call it tools, because all of our techniques, it's like tools in your toolbox. You have a lot of things there, and you have to know how to use each of these, but more importantly, when to use them. Because if you only know how to use a hammer, you will use a hammer every time. And all of your problems will look like a nail. You will not see that there is a screw, so I cannot use a hammer. I should take the screwdriver. You will try to bash the screw with a hammer. It will somehow work, usually, but you will damage either a wall or wood or screw itself. So we should have a lot of techniques we know, and to use them properly. And some of them, I will show you, they are very connected with exploratory testing. They seem very simple, but they are very powerful. And first of them is how to define the test session. And nice about it, it's that it's in the kind of user story. We all know user story. As somebody, I should show that. And we have the same thing here. I should explore some target with some resources to discover some information. And same as with the user stories. This is the most important thing. Why am I doing that? What information I need to provide? Why? Then I choose the tools, how I will explore it, and I choose a target. So the smallest possible area, I can test it. So let's go back to that example of a Prague map. So in this area, I defined 3 test sessions, or these user stories like description. So first them will be explore road from here to here using public transportation to discover quickest way. Well, that could be one definition for me to explore about. The second could be the same area. So for example here, so I will make it smaller, I don't need that area, I will make it like this. But now I will be walking. And the information I would like to discover are most interesting things for sightseeing. So same area, different tools, different information to be discovered. And then I could have even the same area, same tool. So I will be here, I will be walking, but I will be walking at night. And now I'm not looking for sightseeing, I'm looking for areas that are not safe. So these will be free, independent test sessions. These will be free, independent things to do. So here I am focusing on that, here I'm focusing on that. Remember that kitten found. So if I found here something that looks dangerous, probably I will not focus, because now I'm finding sightseeings. And to that definition, when you are defining your sessions like that, I really recommend to involve other people. Because it's a really simple thing to ask, what would you test there? Is my box correct? Are my ideas correct? You have free ideas for free, because people will tell you, hey, I would try this and this and this. You didn't think about it, but they provide you free test cases is wrong word, test ideas. Let's try that. And in this language, they can understand. Even people who are not in the testing, maybe product owner, maybe customer, whoever, they understand what you are asking. So they will give you their opinion, which is very valuable source for your testing. And because testing, it's asking questions and being skeptic about everything, we can challenge these definitions too. And it means every aspect of that. So for a target, for that area, we can have a lot of questions like, why did I choose it? Was it based on really thinking, analysis, or maybe because always I was testing there, so this next session I will do also there, which is wrong. It should be as small as possible, as good for the purpose I would like to do. Is it correct size? Are there any overlaps? And so on. So always I have to know why I define this target, this area to test. For resources, remember the hammer? That's the question. Is my strategy here correct? Am I using correct tool? Can I do a different approach? Will the different approach lead to different result? It should not, right? It should be independent on the tool, but all of these questions for resources are important. And one, again, back to junior people or somebody starting, do I have enough knowledge to do that? Okay, I define a nice test idea, but I don't know how to do it. Maybe I can discuss with my manager or more senior people, hey, I want to test it. Maybe we can do it together, or I have to learn. But if the answer is no, I don't have enough knowledge, I cannot do it. It's like putting the thing to the sprint, which I don't know how to develop, right? We should not plan it to the sprint. And the last about the information, what will I do with the discovery? That's a motivation to test. Like, if I plan a nice session, I will spend 2 hours. And even if I discover bugs, the answer will be, nobody cares, nobody will do anything about it. Why should I test it? And then, do I already have some expectations? Do I have some biases? Do I have something new to be discovered in this area? That should be also asked for that information part. Okay, and now finally to the techniques. So first one, all of them looks very simple. So we have a table. On one side we have the things that software should never do, and here we have things that software should always do. And this is really the most important things, like really never and always. A lot of other things are in the middle. Sometimes not important. And this exercise is powerful because it will discover at first, core capabilities, like functional things of your software. You can discover them by different approaches, but it will also discover some security things, some requirement standards, technologies, non-functional things, which you didn't know about. But nice about that is that, again, you should involve all of your stakeholders, because this is language they understand, and then do the same exercise with them. So you will sit with your customer, with your sponsor, with some IT guy from the customer, do the same exercise, and then they will say, by the way, we need to have this ISO certification, and it says to us, before that you didn't know. And they will say, always, it should do this, because we need to follow that standards, whatever. So this exercise then means things which are here, never or always. That's a critical areas of the application, so you should focus on them, you should test them more deeply, with more attention, and so on. So that was the one technique. And second, it's about similar structure, but now we have nouns and verbs here. So basically, let's imagine some e-shop or whatever, Amazon-like. So nouns will be things like order, customer, payment, goods, whatever. And your verbs will be send, pay, cancel, delete, and all of verbs you can imagine in your system. The list will be very long, usually. Sometimes you can divide it to the different list. But important is the activity you want to do, because then basically it looks like a child game. You will take a noun and you will make arrows to the verbs that make sense. So it will be like, what can I do with an order? Create, delete, and so on. So that expected combinations, yeah, these are basics, they should work. Usually, even they will work, you will not find a lot of bugs there. But then you think about corner cases and rare cases. So what can I do else with an order? Can I maybe track it or whatever, order, track it? So you will have interesting combination to test. You can then build the sessions around it, how to do that, and you will find more bugs there. And I would say that the third level are random things here. You can take random noun and random verb and try to test it, what it does. Usually, or it depends on the business domain you are in. If you are in safety critical area, you have to do that, and it should work, and there should not be any problems, because people get killed if by some accident you try this and this. In a normal area, maybe your system should not crash at all, you should not lose the data, but it doesn't have to work. But still, I should test some combinations here to make sure there is no fatal crash, there is no data loss, and so on. But it doesn't have to work or be user-friendly or whatever, but there needs to be a way how to go back, how to fix the causes. So we will try this in a minute. And then the next technique, we all know UML, or is it still known? Like these diagrams and activity diagrams and so on. And you can base your test sessions around these transitions, around these states. So for example, here it's some basic state of kind of discounting. So I want to give a discount to somebody. So I can submit the discount, somebody will need to approve it, I can withdraw it, or I can revise, whatever. Usually, you don't want to test all of this in one session. That would be weeks of testing. But how can you divide your testing is that you can focus on transition or on the state. So you will say, hey, now I'm testing how to get to submitted state. And I will try in all of the possible ways, even impossible ways, how to get to submitted state. And I will have few test sessions around it. And then I will choose another. Interesting thing is when you really do that, when you map that, you will find the states that are not reachable, which are interesting from testing perspective, and you will find the actions which doesn't change the state, like it goes, it does something and goes back. Why? maybe we can eliminate that, maybe we can merge it with something else, and so on. And the last technique, which is most powerful in my company, and I found most bugs there, it's playing with the data. So here we see some database diagram, and now my exploration, all of that session is, I choose some part of the data, I understand it, and then I start playing with that. What if in database I change that and that and that? And then explore what it does in the UI, in the application, and so on. Or it's in the opposite way, I do some very small thing in the application, and they track what it does and explore what changed in the database. And I found dozens of bugs which you have no chance to see in a UI and so on. But basically exploring the database itself shows that something is really wrong, and you will have problems later, probably. And that's powerful, or my favorite exploration method on my current project. And last and bonus section is, as we are skeptics, we should always think about the worst possible, or maybe impossible, thing to test. What could really go wrong? And then explore around it. And tricky thing is that it's very hard to be in that position that we are skeptics, we are bad guys, and sometimes we lose attention, we wear some pink glasses, and then things really go bad. Because our value is being skeptic. And this exercise, okay, now I will have an exploratory session about what is the possible worst scenario that help us to refresh that attitude, being the bad guys, or skeptic guys, not bad guys. So these were a few techniques, and some closing before we do the exercise. So it's about doing that simultaneously. I said correctly, so in parallel. But there is no clear border between when it is still exploration and where it is something else. And I really like this picture from Bach, which demonstrated in a different point of view. There is a nice article for that, but basically, it's similar to the definition, that chart I show you, like deterministic, not deterministic. But here on the left side, there are the most informal things. So basically, there is no structure, no deterministic ways, and so on. When on the other hand here, everything is very specific, very formal. So probably automation is here, because that's the most formal thing you can have. It's a script that is doing something, and what could be more descriptive? It should not be done by human. But here it starts with playing with the software. So I'm learning by playing, and that's the best thing to start. Whenever you test something, play with that for a few hours, few days, then start designing your test ideas, test scripts, and then it goes here. On some time you will have some coverage metrics. On some time you need your test scripts. You cannot survive without them. They are so important. It becomes more of that left side, verification, checking, still important. But somewhere here I would say it stops to be exploring. There is less exploration and more checking. So that's for me the border between exploration and between the other techniques. Important is that it's basically per requirement. It's not per project that I start whole project and now exploring and I should end whole project by this. It's on the areas of your software. So if there is a new requirement or something you never tested, you should start here and you should end somewhere where it's good enough. So you should have some automation and so on, but nobody needs to push you or say, oh, everything needs to be well described, all test cases needs to have detailed steps and so on. It's up to you when it serves your purpose. Good. So now we will have the exercise, and we will do 3 techniques First will be that always and never. So you will have a pen and paper. You should make 2 columns, always and never. And you will spend 10 minutes working yourself to define what the software should always do, what should not. And then you will have 3 minutes discussion with somebody else. So we should make a pairs. And we have to choose a tool that everybody will think about. I was thinking about Facebook Messenger, but then I realized that, is it thing here? Do you use Facebook Messenger? So everybody knows what it is. Good, because I was scared it will be Telegram, which we are not using in Czech Republic. Okay, so let's imagine you should be testing and developing Facebook Messenger, and we have a table like never, always, and you are thinking about these things, about core capabilities, which could be important functionalities, and all other interesting topics. Okay, so let's make pairs. So somebody will have to move probably somewhere, and let's start 10 minutes if it works. So I will start 10 minutes here. So this is what you should do now. Okay, time's up. The interesting thing is that you start working in the pairs, so we don't need that discussion, what have you found, which is cool. I didn't expect that, but somebody would like to share some interesting findings, some never or always, with us.
Okay, from a part with never, it should never allow to send me messages from person from the blacklist or block list. I don't know how it's called in Messenger. Then it should never send notification when they're turned off. Don't allow other person to get access to my messages. Never fall when I have less than 100 messages, for example. And never should left any files after deleting.
Okay, cool. I'm glad that there was one thing which is non-functional, because that 10 minutes, it's very short. And people, we always start with that functional things, which is cool if you have more time. But I guarantee you that if you then compare, you have a different results, even for core capabilities. And that's the power of this thing. And even when our new QA joins our company, that's the first thing to do with them. We develop pricing software, which it's kind of unique. So new QA has no clue what it really does. But he knows what pricing is a bit and so on. So we go here and we found so huge gaps with the new guys. They're like, really, you think it should do? And maybe it really should. And when we involve customers to think like that for the first time, we discovered so many things we didn't cover at all, we didn't test at all. Most of them were working, but some of them not. So this is why this technique, I would say it's not test technique, but it's a source for testing. It's what you will have to explore, if you wish. Sometimes it will be not explore, it will be really formal testing for some standard or whatever. So that was the first technique. And now we will have the, I call it most funny thing, because it really looks like a game for kids. And it's usually a lot of fun with that, but I would like you to create a list of nouns and list of verbs and find the interesting combination. So we will skip the number one, which are the obvious, not fun, needs to be tested, verified. Maybe it's a better word because these are common. But then exploring these interesting combinations. So still Facebook Messenger, so all of the nouns, all of the verbs. And I recommend spend 8 minutes defining these And then last 2 minutes, I will tell you, it's about finding that interesting combination. And then I will ask everybody, we will give a microphone, we'll go through the room, what is that combination? So you will say, I don't know, message, history, or track history. Okay, so 10 minutes again. Okay, time's up. So now, yeah, take the microphone, and from each pair, what is the interesting combination? And it's mandatory to answer. The one you choose, yeah.
So, sending SMS using Messenger.
Sending SMS using Messenger, yeah, okay, cool.
Searching by nicknames.
Searching
by nicknames.
By nicknames, okay, cool.
What else we have? Removing messages for everyone or for just yourself.
Okay, cool. And one is
ending. When we are ending call, it ends for everyone or just for the organizer.
Okay, thanks. One was enough. So we can ask the others.
For example, searching by emoji.
Searching by emoji. Oh,
if it's possible.
Cool.
I don't know.
It's a corner case.
Okay, nice one.
Chat from video calls. Simultaneously chat and video.
Oh, chat and yeah, doing things together. Okay, interesting.
One more case, block images.
What's more?
Block images.
Oh, okay.
Or smiles. You can block smiles and do not see them at all.
Okay.
Guys.
That group?
Okay, block Messenger when you set password to access application, for example, or block users when you can block Messenger from here. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. So the interesting about that is always sometime at the exercise, people will take the phone and look what the messenger can do, which is perfectly fine. Because when you are discovering that, you need to switch your minds to different perspectives. So first is, what do I know about the tool? Then I will try what it can do. Then thinking about what else it can do. Then a good source is concurrency. So what other software like that do? And should our software do that too? And then choosing that combinations. One interesting bug we found using that was that we had the noun was history and verbs was show, which was fine. That was working because we know how to show the history. But then we choose a verb found or find. And, okay, and what is the difference between showing and finding? And we found out that we are showing the history for business users only sometime at the back, and then our archiving job deleted half of that things. So if there was some audit in the future, so we fixed that bug then, but if there was some audit for showing, for normal people that worked, you don't want to see what happened 3 years ago. But finding history means, okay, I want to find all of the history, and it was not there. And that helped us to, okay, so that's a different show and find. Find is probably a rare case, and yeah, it was not working. So we will have a last exercise, and it brings us back to this definition that we would like to define it as this story-like approach, and these are the sessions we would like to use to test something, to explore something. So I would like you to now take the interesting combinations you find and define stories like that. So I would like to explore target, so it is where you want to test this thing, so some specific part of that messenger, as small as possible, with what technique, so resources means technique, to discover what. So you will describe what you want to discover by that. So in my example, if it is history find, so I would like to be exploring, and there will be several sessions. First was history views in the application, in the UI. So all of the things I can see, different roles and so on. Then another target was database. Then last target was archives. So I have 3 different targets. Then resources. First was, one of the resources was, okay, clicking as the user, like really simulating the user in the application. Second was using database queries to get the resources. And third was going to the archive and finding and comparing it with the current things and so on. So different approaches. And to discover information. What information you want to discover? In our case, it was, at first, that the user can see the part of the history he wants. But then after we define few of these sessions, we say, okay, so, but maybe the information, it's, do I have access for all of my history? And then it starts to be interesting, like who wants to see the whole history? How can I get it? How to find it? And for that we had like 15, I think, 15 different sessions like that. Which means for us it was a week of testing or something like that, based on that one connection we choose. So now your goal is to create several of these for your interesting combinations, and really try to use this wording. It's not mandatory. In real life you can use a sentence or some other structure, but if you really do it as a user story, like explore, target, with resources to discover, it's good that you don't forget about any part of this. So again, that will be last exercise. We will have 10 minutes for that, and then we will have time for questions. And it's totally fine to come with 1 well-described than with 5 badly described. So 10 minutes, it's not a long time. Okay. I stole 1 minute from you to still have time for questions. It's not easy, right? Yeah. To do. But basically that's what I want you take away to home. It's that this is kind of thinking process. So, and this demonstrated nicely. So at first I think what I want to explore, together with why I want to explore it. So what is the information? And then I'm trying to think how to do it, what resources I can find. And you can usually test it from different perspectives, and then you just choose. It doesn't mean that all of the ways how to test it you will do. It's then based on the risks you decide, okay, the same thing I will do that and that, I will not do the other things. But that's for me what is crucial about exploration. That it's always like, what, why, how, what I learn, and it's still growing and growing, because things, you plan your few of your test sessions now. When you execute them, you will have totally different ideas. You will discover other things, so you can define other and other, and at some time, you stop. You say, that's a good enough in that area. That's a good enough information I already provided. So then we have that decision to be informed. It's not anymore guessing. By these tools, I provided enough information to do informed decision. And that's our mission. That's our thing as the testers we do. That's why we are on the projects. So being skeptical and delivering valuable information. And these techniques, yeah, it can help. It can help test a bit differently. It can help with that balance between that left side and right side, so verification and validation and all of these things. It will not, it's not a silver bullet, as I said at the start. Don't think, oh, from tomorrow I will do just that and I forgot all about the test cases and test scripts. No, that it needs to be in balance, but I guarantee you will find the different defects by that. And also you will have totally different discussions with other stakeholders, because customers and so on, they don't understand that technical things or scripts and so on. This is the language they can talk. So they can give you opinions about your testing and make it much more rich and spread it, let's say. Good. So that's all from me. And we have 10 minutes for questions, or 7 minutes for questions, if there are any.
Thank you for your speech. We have a question according to the last exercise. For example, we want to test something like progress bar while we are uploading files. So our area which we are exploring, it's for example, file uploading interface. Our resources are different files, for example, with different sizes, 1 megabyte, 10 megabyte, and maybe 2 gigabytes. And so our data will be, which we want to, our information which we want to get, if a file with 1 megabyte will upload successfully and a file with 2 gigabyte won't upload because it's just, or what will happen inside if internet connection will be broken. By your experience, how is it correct to maybe split it to several different sessions or something like that? How we can handle with that so several different tests or inside one session?
Yeah, at first I would split it to areas where we are uploading. So don't try to test uploading on all application. I can upload here, here, and here. And then I would split it by how to measure it. Because the first will be probably, okay, using the same data, some sizes. Okay, I do it from a user perspective. The bar is moving. Eventually it ends. I can measure the usability of that, how that bar is precise. It's never precise, right? And so on. And then the second approach could be, okay, observing what is happening on the server during that. That's a different session. And then another different session will be, okay, I observe what is in the server. What is in database then? Is it really stored? And so on. So providing the information from different perspective, and that's my bigger recommendation, split it by a technique. Because it's very hard for us to combine these techniques together. They together create the picture, but I can do them separately. So that way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you a lot. And one more question. I want to take the same table, never and always, and what criteria should we consider before using this exploratory technique? So what should be the criteria that we should consider for using this exploratory technique, and what should be this never points that in this case we shouldn't use this technique? What will be these hints for us? For example, you are alone in that project, and your client didn't have some approach. You want to create test cases before going to your test, and whatever you want, give me, as you mentioned, quality products. So what should we consider?
Yeah, okay. It needs to be in balance. So I would say to the customer, when sometimes they say, I don't care about your testing, it's your responsibility, and I say, yeah, I agree, it's my responsibility, but on the other hand, without you, I cannot do that. So I will do all of my stuff, but please give me your time and we will do this exercise. And I will explain them why. what is the motivation, and most important, give them the how much time it will take for them. So we will have few exercises, 4 hours per week, and that's the input. And then connected it with things you found, and they will see the value in that. And still it will be your responsibility, so you will not transfer to them, but ask for a time and the motivation. The second thing, more common, at least in my experience, is everything is always or everything is never. And I say, hey guys, like Pareto works, like 80-20. You cannot say it's like frozen backlog. No, like what is really important? Some voting and communication and so on. No more questions. We need coffee, right? So thanks for surviving without a break. You were most active, so you have a shirt, I heard. Okay, enjoy.